So let's practice when we are given a line segment and we want to partition it so that it's a given ratio. So when we say partition, we've seen finding midpoints where you're finding exactly in the middle of a line. And partitioning it just means, like, if you want a 3:2 ratio, like in this question, you would be a little bit further to the right. If you imagined cutting it into 5 equal pieces, then 3 of the pieces would be the first part and the last 2 would be the last part. So 3 equal pieces to 2 equal pieces. But we don't know where that spot is going to be exactly. It would be around here-ish on the line I've drawn, but how do we find it when we're given a line segment and it's a directed line segment, so it's in the coordinate plane, and we want to partition it to that specific ratio. So the questions will give you the endpoints. It'll tell you what A is and what B is. So A is our -2, 1, and B is -3, -1. Then it will say to find C so that it's partitioned in this given ratio, and the formula itself will be included. Now it's a pretty long formula with a lot to plug in, but once you plug it in, we just need to simplify. So the formula has an x1, a, that uses a couple of times, a b, x2, y1, and y2. So the x1 and y1, that information comes from the first point. Every point consists of an x and a y, and the x1 is just the x value of the first point, y value is the y1 of the first point. The second point also has an x and a y, but it's the second point, so it's the x2, y2. And then the given ratio, we always do a first, b second. So the 3 is the A, the 2 is the B. And that's all the information we need to plug into that formula. Even though, like I said, it's kind of a long formula, all we're going to do is replace a whole bunch of things with numbers and then simplify. So I'm going to rewrite the formula a little bit bigger and then show you what it looks like when we plug in our values. I'm going to try and color code this a little bit so that we can see exactly where each thing is going. So we see x1 in the formula 2 times, and we're going to use the value -2 for this particular question because it's the x value of the first point. So we have -2 here and -2 here at the end. And I'm going to go ahead and include like the parenthesis symbol, the plus sign, and that end parenthesis symbol. And we also have the minus sign, so we're actually minusing -2. So I'm going to put an extra pair of parentheses just so we can see minus from the formula. -2 is the x1 value. Now this is really kind of separate. This first part will give us 1/2 of the coordinate, and then the calculation for the second part will be done separately. So now let's find the A value. And A will also be used in the second part of the formula, but let's just focus on this first part. So A is the 3, so we will replace A with the 3. So we'll have 3 over divided by 3 plus B. So now let's plug in B. Again, that's going to be used in the second half. Let's just focus on this first half. B is 2. So we'd have a 2 here. And then x2 is the x value of the second coordinate. A common mistake is, since we're working all in this first part of the formula, is to say, oh, I'm going to use the 1. We want it to come from the same coordinate. It actually comes from the other coordinate. So now we have -2 plus 3 over 3 plus 2, parentheses, -3 minus -2, end parenthesis. So all of this first part, all of that will actually combine down to one number, Most likely a decimal, just because it's pretty complicated, so that usually ends up being not as nice, but it could be a whole number. So we have a couple options. We could do this all by hand until we need the calculator, or we could plug the whole thing into a calculator. One of my favorite calculators is the Desmos Online Scientific Calculator. It's very useful. So we covered up a little bit, but there was that 2 to start with. Nope, -2 to start with. So we type in the -2, so -2. Then it is plus the 3 over 3 plus 2. We have a fraction button, so we hit the fraction button, so we can put the 3 on top, 3 plus 2 on the bottom. Then we have times this parenthesis, -3 minus -2. So we have to click to the right on this calculator and hit multiply, parenthesis, -3 minus parenthesis, -2. And it fills in the last 2 parentheses for you, so you don't have to worry about that part. And then it just pops out the answer over here, -2.6. So all of that simplified to be -2.6. Now let's find the y-coordinate. So we replace again, but now with our y values. The first y value, y1, is the y-coordinate in the first parenthesis. So we have 1 in both those spots. We already knew a was the 3. We're using it again, plus b is the 2. And then we need to replace y2. y2 this time is -1. Now notice this time we had minus from the formula, but y1 itself was a positive one, so we didn't have to do that minus. So if we were to solve this by hand instead, we would want to combine underneath the fraction first, and then also do what's inside the parenthesis. We'd have 1 plus 3 divided by 5 times, because 3 plus 2 makes the 5, -1 minus 1 is -2. And at this point, now we need the calculator again. So plugging it into the calculator, we have 1 plus 3 divided by 5. On this calculator, you can hit the divide sign again, but it will still give you that fraction, times the -2. That gives us -0.2. So our answer choice is A, which we could have picked anyway without finding the y. Since it's multiple choice, we knew the first part was -2.6, and there was only one answer with -2.6. So sometimes you can select without finding both, or if you want to be more confident in your answer, find both parts, both the x value and the y value.